I'm Agent Morris with the NSA.
We have identified some very, very interesting anomalous type of aircraft.
Traffic is quite luminous and is exhibiting some non-ballistic motion, over.
Move very rapidly at any speed or rather any direction it wanted to go. Flag could change and go to the right or the left or go crossways without hesitating a bit.
What do you think it was?
Well, if they call it a flying saucer, that's what it is.
EWA 517, do you want to report a UFO? Over. Negative. We don't want to report.
Look, it wasn't my worst Wednesday night.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another live edition of Anomaly Now, straight out of Austin, Texas. I'm your host, Smiles Lewis, and this is Wednesday, August 16th, 2023. And looking forward to talking to you, with you. Well, not with you. But yeah, hey, if you want to leave a comment, please do. I'm not sure I can always catch it over there on the sidebar window, but love to have you. Thank you for joining us. This is the weekly live news roundup show of the 501c3 nonprofit Anomaly Archives, the Scientific Anomaly Institute, headquartered here in Austin, Texas. We were founded in 2003 for the preservation of ufological, anomalistic, UAPology. No apologies for UAPology, because there's no apologizing for UAPology. Anything fringe, frontier, any anomalistics. I think anomalistics really covers the gamut of the subject matter that is everything from all things anomalous to cryptozoology, including Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, to ESP, consciousness, the mind, parapsychology, the paranormal, ghosts, hauntings, poltergeists, psychic remote viewing, and those good old-fashioned flying saucers, aka UFOs, aka UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomena, whether they be in the sky or the water or wherever. But yes, last week, I think that was when it first occurred to me, and I'm sure somebody else has already come up with this idea, but you call it UFOology, ufology, of course, lots of friends, thanks to, I think, James Mosley in his Saucer Smear, often referred to it as ufology, adding the extra O in there. Autocorrect always wants to say urology. So, but now with the rebranding, with the UAP acronym, well, wouldn't it be UAPology? UAPology? Okay, I'm beating a dead horse. Is it a mutilated horse? Well, I hope not, because that's just unsavory. Good evening. Wednesdays, according to John Keel, the most likely time to see a UFO. Thus, why we do this show live Wednesday nights. Again, thank you for joining us. Lots to share with you tonight. We have the usual fare. We have, you can go, if you're not familiar with our organization, you can go over to our website, anomalyarchives.org, where you can find links to our YouTube channel, our social media outlets, archives of past newsletters, lots of information about our catalogs, our collections. And then you can also find a link over to our Anomalous News Aggregator, our Flipboard, where we have thousands and thousands of articles. There's so much there. I've just been adding several things even just today, including this New York Times article, Scientists Recreate Pink Floyd Song by Reading Brain Signals of Listeners. Also, if you didn't know, recently, Psychic Uri Geller, charlatan or psychic, you decide. He tweeted or shared an image of a bunch of alien bodies on gurneys and said he'd share the truth about this very soon. Of course, lots of X-Files fans were like, wait a minute, dude, that's like a known picture from the series. Our good friend Professor Wham has a new article and video you can find, Legends of Buck Creek Valley. There's just always so much to share and to talk about, but there's a couple of things I really wanted to touch on tonight. One last before we dive into those things. If you are still focused on the whistleblower, quote unquote, Dave Grush, if you've still got that Dave Grush crush, you can check out links to the dangers of false accusations about what happened to David Grush. Of course, John Greenwald Jr. of the Black Vault does a very quick breakdown in this excerpt from a longer video where he talks about the recent controversy over the past week or two about information about Dave Grush, his past experience with PTSD, and that being revealed through some news articles, and people, of course, are all twisted about it. And is it relevant? Maybe, mostly not, in my opinion. And so I'm not going to say anything more about that. You can read more, find out more about that, watch the video or not. So what are we going to talk about tonight? Oh, there is so much. At the end of last week's show, I believe I just basically breezed past and mentioned, the terrified Peruvian villagers claim they are under attack from 7 feet tall aliens. This, I think, was originally, at least where I saw it, was themirror.com, not the most reputable newspaper, but sure enough, there's been lots of coverage of this, and it's interesting. And I recall last week commenting that it would not surprise me if this was some kind of covert op on the part of military officers or some Delta Force or Special Ops team. Very interesting story about these people who clearly in these videos are upset and are being harassed by something, somebody, something. And there are even allegations that a 15-year-old girl was almost abducted, and that there have been injuries, and that the villagers have been shooting at these entities, which have been described as having jetpacks or flying around on devices akin to and wearing armor and outfits akin to the Green Goblin from the Spider-Man universe, which is an interesting aspect of this that I hadn't really keyed in on. And of course, since then, I had seen some follow-up articles about this, including this one from the Daily Mail about flying 7 feet tall alien attackers in Peru were actually, I should have actually in quotes, don't you think, illegal gold mining gangs on jetpacks. Well, and what I'd seen the image associated with this news story, and it's this image of this young girl, and I'm not sure if she is in fact the 15-year-old who says she was attempted to be abducted, and she is holding an iPhone or a cell phone with an image of, you would presume as somebody looking at this picture that, this must be the proof that these are illegal gangs and that she captured a photo. I can find no verification of this. What we have verification of there in this image is that she's holding up a phone with an image of somebody flying around. And of course, lo and behold, if you look into this, I believe I have this set up over here real quickly. There is this image. So you see this image on the left is in fact a Frenchman named Frankie Zapata. And Frankie Zapata is famous for that, not jetpack. Yes, there is a pack on his back, but that is not what's keeping him aloft. It is the drone device that he is standing on. And you can see clearly from these two images, flipped as they are. The one on the left is, I believe, from a Reuters news article about Frankie Zapata, and the image on the right being the close-up of the image the girl is holding in the now famous picture that's making the rounds, which, again, what's that? It makes you think, okay, so did somebody show her that picture and she said, yes, that's what we are seeing, that's what I saw, and that's why she's holding it up, is to just indicate this is a representation of what we've been seeing, what is attacking us, which is very interesting, obviously. In the news stories, though, there's nothing, as far as I've been able to find. Of course, most of these articles are written in the native language of these Peruvians, and while I do have access to Google Translate, I have not seen anything specifically explaining the nature of how this photo came to be. But it is very interesting, of course, I think, because as I mentioned, this Frankie Zapata is famous for, I believe, even like maybe crossing the English Channel. You can, of course, find more information about him at his Wikipedia page. He's a French personal watercraft pilot who is the inventor of the Flyboard and the Flyboard Air, founder of Zapata Racing. And then you can see in this picture here a little bit better the type of jet pack that's under his feet. And of course, in the descriptions of that the locals have been giving, is that these creatures are 7 feet tall. Well, at least a foot of that, I believe they are saying, are the boots, which also had flashing lights on them. Which again, are they wearing those kinds of sneakers that kids like that have the glowing lights in them, or is the device that they're standing on has some kind of identifying light, which you would think, if they're doing something covert or surreptitious, nefarious against these locals, that they would suppress that light. Who knows? But what the local authorities are now saying is that these are these illegal gold mining cartels who are known to be, they say, using these devices to have spotters find the gold that they're going to be illegally harvesting. And the first question I have is, okay, well, that seems unlikely to me. It seems like drones would be a far cheaper solution to that desired effect of finding the resources. But what does seem to make sense, again, is this idea that they're perhaps more likely being used as a cover to harass these locals, these indigenous folks, to force them out of fear to hide in their homes and not go to where these illegal mining operations are taking place. That definitely seems more likely. Of course, the locals have claimed that, like the Kelly Hopkinsville goblins of yore, that they have shot these things and there's been no effect. So there does seem to be the possibility that they're also wearing armor. This all assumes that there's some prosaic explanation behind this, which I think there most likely is. Here again is a picture where they are showing, after one such alien attack, quote unquote, a 15-year-old girl pictured had to be taken to the hospital. Local reports said she sustained neck injuries fighting off one of the mysterious beings, now believed to be gold cartel criminals. I really do hope that the locals can verify this and stop it, because I know we've all heard these horror stories about the types of things that these various cartels are doing, not just for drug running or human trafficking, but in this case, literally stealing, mining precious metals from native lands. But it's a very interesting case. And like I mentioned, it really reminded me of something that you can read about. There's lots of different articles about this out there, but here at the Wikipedia page for the Aswang, there is an entry. And if you also look up CIA operations in the Philippines, you'll find out about this. In the Philippines in the 1950s, the CIA was fighting the Hooks. They spread rumors that evil men would be attacked by a local Aswang or vampire. They then punctured holes in the corpse of a Hook and drained all the blood from his body before leaving the body to be discovered on a road. Colonel Edward Lansdale was likely among those who encouraged and spread word of the practice as part of psyops against the Hooks. Now, I've never read anything in depth going into the details of that alleged case, but I have no doubt that it's true, and it appears to be, there has been quite a bit written about it, and I believe there's plenty of documentation verifying that this occurred. But for those of you not that familiar, of course, Peru is on the western side of the South American continent, and has an amazing array of different types of terrain. And they too have their own local lore about different types of dangerous creatures that might be encountered. And I'm not going to try to pronounce the name of this particular one, but it basically translates, I believe, as face eater or stealer. There was also, I think, mention in one of these articles about the fear that this was in fact some kind of how you say organ trafficking operation, which of course gets into a whole other brand of folklore that is often affiliated with South and Central American fears about mysterious beings and objects. And in fact, besides the aswang in the Philippines, there are, of course, the cases investigated by people like Jacques Vallée and others about the chupas, the chupa chupas, the sucker suckers, the flying refrigerators that these small hovering flying object mystery UFOs that bedeviled certain Amazonian tribesmen who these tribesmen would often sleep in hammocks up in the trees waiting for their prey down below to pass by in the night, and they would attack them from above and capture their prey, except that they were becoming the prey, and the predators in this case were the flying refrigerators, which they referred to as chupa chupas, because there was this folklore associated with the idea that these were somehow high-tech objects that had come from North America and were in fact stealing organs and harvesting blood. Thus the chupacabra being a different variant, a more monster, bestial type variant of the same kind of folklore. But and as just a brief comment here, in this map of Peru, I'm reminded of Lima and these other parts that are in the there along the coast, where there's these mountainous areas. And a good friend of mine many years ago, when she visited Peru, she was up in the mountains, and I've written, or rather I've had somebody submit an article in my published many years ago, an article about an Humo cult. This is a Spanish cult from Spain that's spread worldwide, but not as much as certain other UFO religious cults. But there is evidence that there were some there in Peru. But my friend photographed, I think she photographed it. She told me about having seen a local kid wearing a Homer Simpson t-shirt, where Homer Simpson had the big gray almond black eyes of an alien gray, which just seems like the most strange thing to see up in the mountains of Peru. So in this map of Peru, up in the northern, I guess that you would call that the northeastern part, is a very large region that's I believe called the Alto Nanay, and it's this large preserve area, and it's near this populated region, I think, called Iquitos. I'm probably mispronouncing this. And there's this is the outline of a province that overlaps that same preserve, and you can see it encompasses that same town as well. And all of this appears to be happening along, I believe, this river here, the Nanay, that goes quite deeply into this nature preserve. And I believe they're saying that this is like 10 hours in from the nearest population. These are fairly isolated people. So you can imagine how terrifying this might be. Here's a close-up of that nearest big town that's right there, I believe, on the Amazon. And I believe this Nanay River leads into the Amazon. Interestingly enough, on this map, you can see something over here called the Ayahuasca Foundation, and over here, the Temple of the Way of Light, which I think I may have heard of in terms of it being a UFO type cult or religious group. I'm not sure. Anywho, again, all this is happening in Peru. Very, very strange. And so if this is representative, it really does beg the question, okay, so the cartels they're willing to spend that much money on terrorizing the locals to keep them away from their illegal mining pits. But I guess with that much gold, it makes a lot of sense. Again, here is another picture of this fellow, Frankie Zapata. And another YouTuber who has a channel called The Leak Project, who says he's a friend of cattle mutilation researcher Chris O'Brien. He mentioned in one of his videos that Chris O'Brien has in the past reported on some cattle mutilation cases in the United States involving sightings of men with jetpacks. Meanwhile, this same YouTuber and another YouTuber who have covered this story brought these two articles to my attention. These do not directly or obviously pertain to this case of 7-foot aliens or illegal mining cartels attacking these villagers, but it's interesting nonetheless if one is considering the idea again of some kind of covert op. This article is from August 12th. Peru announces air security pact with U.S. in bid to stop drug planes. Again, I assume that means that the drug cartel planes. And it's a very brief article, and at the end it says an earlier air security pact between the countries was suspended 2 decades ago after Peru's Air Force shot down a plane it had misidentified, killing 2 U.S. citizens. Perhaps unconnected again is this article from over at southcom.mil, U.S. Southern Command. Peru bolsters international space collaboration with key U.S. partners during exercise. Again, no direct connection. I'm just throwing this out there. It's been mentioned by these other YouTubers as something to keep in mind in this case. Not sure what to make of all that, but very interesting stuff. Really hope that this gets resolved. I really do hope that the local authorities are able to verify one way or the other what's going on and to stop it and to protect the lives of these local people who are being obviously harassed very badly. So in the title for this episode, I mentioned also, besides UAPology, the AI self-transforming machine elves of hyperspace. And, I'm a fan of somebody who I was probably introduced to through a good mutual friend, Greg Bishop, whose show Radio Misterioso would occasionally have a co-host, and that co-host is the person whose show I'm about to speak about and show clips from. That is Walter Bosley. Walter Bosley is a very interesting fellow who I've always been entertained by and intrigued by because of his former AFISI, Air Force Office of Special Investigations, counterintelligence, counterterrorism work, as well as his work as I believe, I'm probably getting all the details of his job titles wrong, special agent in the FBI for counterterrorism. He actually did go to UFO conferences to observe potential foreign nationals who were using the UFO interest as a cover. He also has a lot of wild experiences and beliefs to relay. And I think he ends up being a very keen observer on the UFO phenomena. Well, he's got his own YouTube channel and does a weekly show. I think it's Shifting Times. In fact, it may be playing right now. Oops. Anyway, I did get to see the last half of it last week. Enjoyed what I saw, and then tuned in to watch the podcast later. And there's a couple of things I wanted to play from that, including this bit here. Hopefully I can get this going here.
But here, in my personal experience, the things that have happened with me that have pushed me towards that explanation, you're talking about an intelligence that does not want to be proved to the masses across the board. It likes to manifest and deal with each person individually. It's all about interacting with you as an individual and how you respond and how you deal with it and how you develop it. So it's going to not allow you, in the way it manifests, it's going to not allow you to prove it. And that scares the idea of that, because look, we have basically you could break down our society to two kinds of people. You have the individuals, okay, and you have the collectivists. I'm talking psycho-emotionally. You got people that just want to be part of the crowd. They are a social butterfly, a social animal, and they've got to be part of the crowd. And it's those people whom this option, what I just mentioned, makes the most nervous, because it just makes them nervous. They don't like the idea of having an experience that is unique unto themselves. Okay. That scares the hell out of them, quite frankly, because if it's everybody's got to have the same experience, or it kind of sets their world askew. So I think that's another reason why they push for ETs, because something coming from external, materially, like an extraterrestrial, one person can see that, 10 people can see that, 1,000 or 1,000,000 people can see that same alien. Oh, look, it's a collective experience, like watching the MTV Music Awards or the Super Bowl, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But the experience of these ultradimensionals coming at them individually in a way that they can't prove to anyone else that it happened, they're gonna freak out.
Well,
Yeah, I really, really like that. I don't know if I've ever actually heard Walter express that before, and that's he touches on something that I've tried to express to people interested in UFOs from a more nuts and bolts explanation, extraterrestrial explanation, and it's this idea that the phenomena doesn't tend to leave behind evidence. Now, I have kind of rethought that in light of Vallet's latest book, Trinity, where he is basically expressing this idea that whatever the phenomenon is, it does occasionally leave behind physical evidence, and that also is touched upon in Diana Pasulka's American Cosmic book, when she opens the book with her visiting this field out in New Mexico that's called the gifting field, where gifts are allegedly from these intelligences. They are either crashed, either the things just keep crashing there, or it just like as weird Fortean falls of material from the sky, from the hyperdimensional reality. I don't know. But there's another clip here, and you can't see Kutch's camera wasn't working. Josh Cutchin's camera was working. But there's this other clip here that I'd like to play a bit of.
I don't think that an objective read on the phenomenon is. I don't think that an objective read on the phenomenon is around the corner. I just don't.
Well, just to jump on that, made me think of this in a sense where it's like, if we go with the idea that the phenomenon sort of was back originally, it manifested as like fairies and other elemental type phenomena, and then at some point it kind of like morphed into the airships, and then into these flying craft. One wonders if like whatever the phenomenon isn't even going to manifest as UFOs, or isn't even manifesting as UFOs anymore at all. We just haven't caught on yet. Or maybe it's like, I don't know what it would be manifesting as. We may not be able to understand it until it's like in retrospect or something, but something about AI or computers or something, like, it's like,
I believe it was
something like that will happen.
I believe it was Martin Kottmeyer who is still around and is sort of one of the great unsung scholars of UFOs that is still alive. I believe it was him who suggested that perhaps this phenomenon, as we have seen it change over time, I would argue, obviously, from spirits to fairy folk to UFOs, that perhaps the next iteration is indeed, as trendy as it sounds, artificial intelligence, and this idea that this other intelligence, whatever it is, will take on that as a guise, and the narrative will become, oh, it's the self-replicating robots from their secret base somewhere that are sort of coming into people's houses and taking them. So it'll be like it's some kind of sentient
technology. We don't know where it comes from. We can't find it. It's in the system. It's in the cloud. It's out there. And it's just the same thing. It's the fucking phenomenon that's now it's these little digital elementals or something.
Yeah.
So Yeah, I really really like that idea. It reminds me of Terence McKenna's self-transforming machine elves of hyperspace that he described having encountered, and others have described encountering when they experience DMT trips, short though they are. But it also reminds me of something that we've talked about on this show recently, and that was right around the time when I think when Gary Nolan was the clip of him at this international tech conference saying straight up that we've got these recovered crowders all right before the Dave Grush revelation. And go, guess what? I believe Grush is on in part of the same organization, the Saul Foundation, that Gary Nolan is a part of. And there was this Reddit thread that my friend and AV Tech Victor had sent me that purports to be an insider talking about the nature of the UFO phenomena is that it is this kind of built on demand type of craft. There's like one mothership somewhere and it's generating all the devices, including maybe these automaton beings. And I really do think I agree completely. And this is not exactly a new idea, but it's the newest twist on it. This idea that the phenomena seems to always, or we always project on it our next level expectations, what seems understandable to us, and it just always seems just right on the cusp of where we are at. And I definitely think there's something to that. There's some other great clips in that show. I'd encourage you to go check it out. I will include the link to the show, UAPology on Parade, the Walter Bosley channel with guests Tim Binnall and Joshua Cutchin. But they also touch on, and I was, again, really interested to hear Walter's comments on this. He's very much like, folks, get away from focusing on the government, and his guests, Tim and Josh, were in agreement. Stop focusing on expecting the government to show you the truth or to reveal the truth, and get back to investigating these cases. And Walter specifically was saying, look, he didn't use this phrase, but it's a phrase that John Keel used called the silent contactees. The fact that, and Valet has touched on this too, the stranger the experience, the less likely it will ever get reported, the fewer people it will be reported to. And Bosley touches on this idea that there are tons of people who are not publicity seekers, and that's not to say that anybody who talks about their experiences is a publicity seeker, but there are tons of people who've had contact with this phenomena, as he was describing in that first clip, is often such a personalized form of contact as to negate its ability to be believed by others. And Joshua Cutchin really describes this as a great way of doing outreach to people who've had these experiences and to talking to people about it. But anyway, that's something you can check out. We'll put in the links to tonight's show notes. Meanwhile, there's again tons of great links over at our Flipboard, and you can find that at flipboard.com/@Anomaly Archives, and we have thousands of links there. There's some other stuff I just posted today. There's a podcast featuring Austin's own Robert Powell, who's with the SCU, talking about the history of the UFO phenomena. There's a new message from the executive director of Expanding Frontiers Research, Erica Lukes. We've got some cryptozoology stuff. Oh, coming up is this the second annual Texas UFO Con. I was honored to be a speaker at the inaugural one last year. This occurs in Jefferson, Texas, up there in the northeast part of the state. Here we see a picture of Craig Woolheater on the left, who is the founder of that, as well as the Texas Bigfoot Conference, longtime local Bigfooter. And Tim Binnall is returning to the airwaves. He's got a new YouTube channel where they're posting YouTube versions of his old audio archives. Tim, like me, has been podcasting since before the phrase existed. He started back in 2005, 2006. and it was in 2006 where I started carrying his Banal of America BOA shows on my own Anomaly Radio network. But there's a lot of great stuff coming up, including Ryan Sprague's Anomicon is a free online experiencer-oriented UFO UAP-oriented conference with, look at all these speakers. I mean, this is just massive, amazing, and it's free. This is great. They've got all these great sponsors covering the cost for this, and great lineup of folks, many of whom I'm unfamiliar with, but would love to hear what they have to say, and several of which I am very familiar with and always want to hear what they have to say. So there's that. And, there's been so much coverage by News Nation. Well, not to be outdone, but thehill.com has been covering a lot of this Dave Grush UAP hearings story, and they are having an event tomorrow. And I believe registration is free. And looking here, Victor was telling me they've added some speakers. But yeah, Rep. Tim Burchett, who's of course been leading the charge on this, among others, and historian Greg Agigian is going to be speaking. So I'm immediately intrigued. Of course, Ryan Graves, who was part of those hearings, and these other folks. This looks like it could be very interesting, and this is happening tomorrow, and you can register for that as well. Meanwhile, in another recent episode, I mentioned that some of my favorite paranormal community organizers, Dana and Greg Newkirk of the Newkirk's Paranormal Museum, are coming to Austin. And sure enough, they just posted this video teaser for their new tour.
From deep inside the archives of the Newkirk Museum of the Paranormal, join Greg and Dana Newkirk for a night of hair-raising supernatural stories you'll never forget, no matter how hard you try.
It's time to go on the road.
This interactive presentation reveals the shocking facts behind infamous artifacts, like the diabolical Dybbuk box, the fiery curse of the crying boy, and the spine-tingling tale of the Catskills Crow.
What do they say?
Well, I guess we're going on tour.
It's Haunted Objects Live. For tickets and a full list of dates, visit newkirktour.com.
So, yeah, I've already got my ticket. Meanwhile, already mentioned good friend and amazing paranormal writer, Joshua Cutchin, has announced he is written his first novel, and it's Them Old Ways Never Died, and you can watch a preview of it over on the YouTube channel. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but
everything you've been through, you've been going through since time began. And they are always to blame. They ain't protectors. They're possessors. Where are they from? Here. Out there.
Is that Matthew McConaughey? Sure does sound like it. And of course, I also want to take this opportunity to remind folks that another accomplished chronicler of the weird, high strangeness, paranormal realm, especially as it relates to UFOs and owls, has also written his first novel. That is, of course, Mike Cleland. You can find out more about his book, The Unseen, a novel, over at his Hidden Experience blog. But man, yeah, so much great fun stuff happening. Really just a plethora of fun and interesting free stuff. And just hope you'll check it out. And thank you for joining us. This has been the Anomaly-NOW show from the Anomaly Archives here in Austin, Texas. You can go find us on all your favorite podcatchers. You can find the archives of the vodcast over at anomalyarchives.org. And I guess that's pretty much it for tonight, folks. Thank you for joining us. Peace out.